Up next, we are going to talk about a big piece of news that I'm sure many of you heard about a little bit earlier on today, reported by our colleague Matt Lawton, the chief sports correspondent at the Times newspaper, that Manchester City have launched an unprecedented legal action against the Premier League, a move that has sparked civil war in English football's top flight. The dispute has become a battle between the most powerful clubs in the country, and it will be settled over a 2-week private arbitration hearing which starts on Monday. It could dramatically change the outcome and landscape of the professional game. And it is all around the league's associated party transaction rules, which they claim, Manchester City claim, are unlawful, and they are seeking damages from the Premier League. Let's hear what Matt Lawton had to say a little bit earlier on when he joined Hawksby and Jacob to outline and discuss this discrimination case.
Manchester City have indeed launched a legal action, unprecedented legal action against the Premier League. They are trying to have rules around associated party transactions, which are the sponsorship deals where the sponsor is linked to the owner. They're arguing that they are unlawful. They are also suing the Premier League for damages if it proves to be the case that they are unlawful. We're revealing the fact that there is a arbitration hearing starts on Monday. We didn't know that before. And the fact that a number of clubs, I think between 10 and 12 clubs, have gone into bat for the Premier League. So what we have here is absolute civil war between the Premier League clubs. And there is some very provocative language in the claim by Manchester City. They talk about these financial rules that were brought in December 2021 as being a tyranny of the majority, and they're also claiming discrimination against Middle East clubs.
You can read more at the times.co.uk from Matt Lawton there. But yes, a 165-page legal document where City argue they're the victims of discrimination. And as Matt mentioned, they're describing the rules that they say have been approved by their rivals to stifle their success on the pitch as a tyranny of the majority. Now, there are many, many questions, Rory, for us to ask around this. My main question would be, of course, do City have a fair argument here? Firstly, are they being discriminated against? Because that's what the case will ultimately be about. But aside from that, you ask, why now? These rules came in, of course, in 2021. I guess those are the two key questions for us. Obviously, we know that Manchester City are alleged 115 charges that have been levelled at them by the Premier League. They, of course, deny any wrongdoing in any of those charges, but you may think that that has something to do with the timing. However, there may be a point here from Manchester City to make in terms of how they've been treated, because it does stifle their success. It does allow clubs like Manchester United and Liverpool, with many, many more fans all over the world, with that historical element to them in terms of success, to maybe argue that their sponsorship deals are at a higher level than the likes of Manchester City because of that reason, right? But Manchester City can obviously state that due to their more recent success, their sponsorship deals should maybe be at an even higher level. And maybe that is where the debate, the argument will be mostly pointed.
I think that you've done incredibly well there, Hugh, to present this as fairly as possible. But I don't think I agree with any of the latter half of that. I don't think there is any justification for this. And when Manchester City have employed the term tyranny of the majority, I don't think that John Stuart Mill, when he wrote about the tyranny of the majority, was talking about Manchester City. I don't think that he had somebody as privileged as Manchester City in mind when he spoke about a tyranny of the majority. Ultimately, this, I believe, is due to trying to create as much chaos as possible. And basically, a league cannot function if the teams in the league do not adhere to the rules and respect the rules of that league. If you simply challenge every rule that you disagree with to the level that they are challenging it, the league doesn't exist. It ceases to mean anything. So I think this is really damaging. This whole thing is really troubling, and I don't see how we can. If somehow Manchester City win this, the Premier League as we know it will cease to exist.
You believe so?
Well, how can it continue? Because the whole the whole rule of law within the Premier League is that the teams within the Premier League all conform to the rules.
But the argument to this is, though, of course, that Manchester City have won 6 out of 7 Premier League titles within this framework. So it's hard for us to understand why they are so unhappy. They obviously feel like they should have made a lot more money during this period because they're suing the Premier League for damages. But because of their success, because of the fact it hasn't affected them really in any way, you'd have to point towards something more political.
Exactly.
That's only my opinion.
Look, hypothetically, just totally hypothetically, the question that I would ask is, if Manchester City weren't about to face charges, very significant charges, 115 of them, if that wasn't about to happen, I wonder if this case would be brought.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.